the dark side of the algorithm.
It's,
New week of old comics.
Wait a second. Guess what? A graphic novel is out! Buy it now at the links below.
We begin this week looking at Daniel Clowes Patience. This is Clowes' longest book, longest single story, I believe. It's one of the books other than Wilson that wasn't serialized in 8-Ball. So it's from start to beginning. Graphic novel story. It's a love story. It's a science fiction story. It's about a guy falls in love with a girl. They get married. She gets pregnant, and then she's murdered. It has a lot of the Clowes tropes, the big panel, big squarish panel. And without giving too much away, he lives long enough with this kind of misery in the future. The future is kind of done in this kind of wacky 1950s Jetsons future. Lives long enough in the future to come across a time machine and decides to use the time machine to go back and figure out who killed his wife and if he can stop it. But again, a lot of the close-up, the heavy blacks, which I love. That's typical of Daniel Clowes' work. If you know, like a velvet glove cast in iron. But it's a really enjoyable story. I wish he would do more of these kind of all-in-one stories. I look forward to more output like Patience and like Wilson. Even though this is still not my favorite, I think Velvet Glove Cast in Iron is a high bar to clear. But this is a good book and a good one to have in the collection if you're a Clowes fan. Next, we're going to look at Milk and Cheese. I've got a long infatuation with Milk and Cheese, starting from when I was a kid and I had the comic books, individual comics. You can see these are well worn. I used to carry them in my high school backpack. We read them during class. Milk and Cheese was originally serialized. They're short little strips. They're originally serialized in different magazines, different comics magazines, until eventually Slave Labor Graphics collected them. So between Milk and Cheese and Johnny the Homicidal Maniac, I was a Slave Labor Graphics fan. But this collects all of the Milk and Cheese comics in much nicer paper. The blacks really stand out compared to kind of there's definitely something to this kind of paper. Gives it a definite underground comics feel. But I think the blacks look better here on this glossy paper. So Milk and Cheese, there's not much to it. One's a carton of milk, one's a wedge of cheese, and they go around drinking and beating up people. Raging at society for whatever seems to bother Evan Dorkin, I guess. Evan Dorkin, you may know from Beast of Burden. He was also a writer on Space Ghost Coast to Coast back in the 90s. So Milk and Cheese is a lot of fun. You can read Some of the stories are only a page long. You can see it's neat to watch the evolution of how, when he first starts drawing Milk and Cheese, to kind of when he refines it a bit better. Milk and Cheese kind of take on more. He's turned down offers to turn it into a movie or a television show, thinking that it wouldn't translate well, and he's probably right, because all they do is, look, this is a story where they just beat up furries. This is... The color stuff is neat. It's a nice touch. It kind of makes you wish they'd go back through all of it and recolor it. That would be really cool. But it also works well in black and white, I think. Yeah, it's Milk and Cheese. Finally, we're going to look at Snow Glass Apples. Now, as you can see, my copy got a little dinged up in the mail here. Snow Glass Apples is a story by Neil Gaiman he wrote in the 90s. I believe it was for the Comic Book Legal Defense Fund or something. Like an anthology. Who knows what's going on with the Comic Book Legal Defense Fund now, considering all the drama that's happening, but this story's been adapted a couple different ways. It's been turned into a audio drama, and now it's been adapted in a comic book by Colleen Duran, who you may know from Of a Distant Soil. She is a really good artist. I remember when they first released this image, it kind of it became my cell phone wallpaper for a while. Before the book came out and this image was out, I was like, damn, that's fucking awesome. It's a story, it's about Snow White, but told from the perspective of the stepmother. In the story, Snow White is a vampire, and the stepmother's still a sorceress, or a witch. She knows magic, basically. And it's told from her point of view, where Snow White is the bad guy. And that's a Neil Gaiman trope. I mean, one of the things that kind of got me is the Neil Gaiman library. It's like, yeah, it's his story, but this is definitely the Colleen Duran show when you flip through the book. Because all of her powers here are on display. Look at that. The colors are great. The art is great. The line work is just spot on. It's just a pretty book through and through. It's probably my favorite adaptation of Neil Gaiman's story. Even though that How to Talk to Girls at Parties and A Study in Emerald is also pretty good. This has some what people call back matter at the end of the book, which I hate when people call it back matter, because it always feels like they're like name dropping, like I know a name for something. But the back of this book, the appendix here, has some pre-production work here. It's really cool. This would definitely be something you'd want to own the original art for. It comes with notes by Colleen Duran. Yeah, but it got nominated for an Eisner, which, I mean, I think kind of the Eisners are kind of bullshit, but if this doesn't win, you'll know Eisners are bullshit, because this comic is really impressive. Very impressive. Alright, that's it for this week. Check me out follow me on Twitter at PlagueChild, or on Instagram at Octopus Avenue. And check out my book, which is out on Gumroad right now for digital copies, soon to have physical copies. Yeah.
Tonight's program has been brought to you by